All right, y'all. In today's video, we're doing power forwards, starting power forwards in the Western Conference, ranking them on this tier list. After this, we got centers, and I think we're going to do 6-man after that for each conference, and then I'm going to be done with these tier lists for current players right now. But hope y'all have enjoyed this series. If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Trying to push towards 2,000 subscribers. I upload at least 2 or 3 videos every single day talking about different things around the NBA. Would really appreciate it if y'all do subscribe for consistent NBA content. Without further ado, let's hop right into it, and let's start off with the first player on this list, which is J-Dub, Jalen Williams, having an awesome year. I don't think I can put him in the highest tier. Honestly, I think there's only gonna be one player in the highest tier on this list. But I do think we've got a great list with a lot of really good players, and J-Dub is absolutely one of those guys who deserves to go towards the top tier, if not in the top tier. But he's a stud, 100%. Really good player. He's having a great year. Defensively, he is a high-level player. One of the better defensive guards in wings in basketball. Honestly, he's probably one of the most versatile power forwards in the league. Versatility is the name of the game at the power forward position, and J-Dub provides exactly that. Good rebounder, good passer, great playmaker. Efficiency-wise, certainly solid with about 48% from the field, 34% from 3. He doesn't turn the ball over a ton for his playmaking, which is good, especially as a wing, and shoots the 3-ball pretty well. I wish he was maybe a little better. He hasn't shot it quite as well this season on a career high in attempts. He's only 34%. Could be a bit better there, but defensively, he's been great. Scoring's at a career high. He's having a really good year. Without a doubt, a guy who deserves to be in the stud tier. Just don't think I'd put him any higher than that. Jabari Smith Jr. I like Jabari Smith as a player. I don't love Jabari Smith as a player. He hasn't really translated quite as well from college to the NBA as I thought he would. I mean, he's 11 and 6, 35% from 3, 43.5% from the field. He's a good player. He's hurt right now, but he's a good player. He's having a fine year. He just hasn't really progressed a ton, I don't feel like, in his NBA career, kind of like I thought he would. Now, he's only 21 years old, so still time to continue to progress, but the rebounding is actually down a little bit this year in similar minutes. The playmaking has not progressed really at all in terms of his passing or his assist turnover ratio or anything like that. Just haven't seen a ton of growth in his game. He's the type of guy that I could see the Rockets, if they were to make a big move, big trade, try to change up their roster, could potentially get traded. I don't know if he will get traded, but I think it's possible for sure that it does happen at some point in the next couple of years. Good player. I don't think he's in the lowest tier, but I don't think he deserves to be any higher than May. I think that's totally fair. Jaren Jackson Jr., he would be the guy, in all honesty, I think out of everybody on this list that I would put in that highest tier. If I was going to move more than one guy into that best of the best tier. I just don't think he's quite there. Now, he's averaging 23 and 6.5. Again, he won Defensive Player of the Year a couple years ago. He's a very good defensive player. He's about 35% from the 3, 50% from the field in total, and has been awesome lately, especially. I mean, he's had 33 points, 35 points in 2 of his last 3 games. He's been rebounding the ball pretty darn well. It's something that I think you want to see a little bit more progress in his game as a rebounder, especially with him being a near 7-footer and with the athleticism he provides. But recently it's been 8 rebounds, 13 rebounds, 9 rebounds. Like, he seems to be progressing across the board. He's having maybe his best season of his career, shooting the 3-ball about as well as he ever has besides his second year. Overall, I mean, I think Jaren's having a really good year. I think his 2-point percentage, it's a career high there as well. Well, actually, it's not a career high. It's second, though, in his career. And overall, just really good. He's a very solid player. Absolutely stud tier. Having a great year. Aaron Gordon has taken a big step forward as a 3-point shooter this year. He's missed a good amount of time to injuries, but he's having a good year when he does play. 13 and 6, or 13, almost 14 and 6. But he's 54%, over 44% from 3. That is by far a career high. He has never been that level of shooter. I mean, ever in his career, even when he went to Denver, which obviously playing with Jokic helps you get better shots, but he shot so well these last couple of years, or so mediocrely, honestly. He shot so well this year, specifically on 3 attempts a game. It's great progress for Aaron Gordon's game, and it's something that's, I think, been a big part of his offensive development, as he maybe loses a little bit of athleticism as he gets a little older in his career. But he's still a very athletic wing. He's still a very good defender. I think he's a little underappreciated on the defensive end of the court. Not a bad rebounder. Those rebounding numbers are down a bit this year. A good player, absolutely. He's played a little less this year, been a little bit less healthy, but still a really good player, and still having a very good year. So I think high May is probably the right spot for him, honestly. PJ Washington is having such a good year that I almost want to put him in stud. He's shooting the 3-ball much better this year than he has the last couple of years, as he's over 38%, and that's after a slow start to the season. He was like 25% 2 weeks into the year, and it's now up to 38% from 3, averaging 13 and 7.5. Rebounding has been really, really good for PJ this year, by far a career high, and he's clearly taken more initiative this year on being more physical, more aggressive on the boards. As a scorer, he has big moments and big nights, and then he has other moments where he's willing to just play his role. He only takes 6 shots, scores 8 points, and that is fine. He's a great role player. He does a lot of things well. And I think defensively, he's taken huge steps as a shooter. He's shown a lot of progress this year after a couple of down years. Again, a guy who I think you could argue higher up on this list if you wanted to. I just don't think I'm quite going to do it because overall, I don't know. This is not a super strong list compared to the Eastern Conference power forwards. I got to say, I think we're going to have a little bit more of a bottom heavy list on this one. Rui Hachimura, I mean, again, good player. He's averaging 12 and 5. He's shooting 41.5% from three. He's playing his role. There are less superstar caliber power forwards in the Western Conference than there are in the Eastern Conference. Absolutely. But Rui is having another good year. 2 years in a row, over 40% from three is really great progress. Has become just a everyday, consistent, high-level player for this team after some real inconsistency in Washington. And I think he's a winning player, good defender. Overall, just kind of does whatever is necessary. He's not a great player, but he's a good one. And I think, man, is the right spot for him, but he's having a good year again. So shout out to Rui Hachimura for another solid season, couple in a row now, honestly. Derrick Jones Jr. Was awesome in Dallas last season and has been really good for the Clippers as well. Now the scoring isn't great. I mean, he's less than 10 points a game, 50%, 35% from three. Last year, he was about 34% from three. But he had the best year of his career, I would say, in Dallas last year overall on both ends of the court as a defender and as a offensive consistent piece on a winning team as well. So I think this year has been just more of the same in that aspect. He's actually averaging a career high as a scorer this year and a career high shooting the three to this point in the year. Shown a lot of growth the last couple of years, shooting the three ball in higher volume and at better percentages. Wasn't really sure that he was going to be able to sustain improved play once he left Dallas and Luka, but playing with Harden seems to have been just as good for Derrick Jones. With that being said, I don't have anybody in the lowest tier yet, and he's not even averaging 10 points a game. He's not much of a playmaker. He's not a bad player. But on this list, I do think he goes a tier below these other guys in that tier right now, personally. It feels bad. He's a good player, but you just can't have everybody in the same tier. You know what I'm saying? Julius Randle. I think Julius Randle's overhated as a player, I have to say. I think he's a little bit better than people give him credit for. He does have defensive lapses and bad moments where he just shot checks and makes poor decisions, but he's averaging 27 and 4. And he's doing it on 48%, over 35% from three. I mean, the efficiency's actually very solid. It has been really, I think, for the most part for the past few years. And he's having a good year, playing his role, shooting the free throws well, rebounding pretty solidly. I mean, he's not quite a 20 and 10 guy anymore, but he's still 20 and 7 as well as nearly 5 assists a game. The assist turnover ratio could be better. His decision making has always been a little bit questionable, especially in terms of shot selection and things of that nature at times. But I do think, I mean, as he's developed as a pro, he's a good player. And now Minnesota wishes they had Karl-Anthony Towns, absolutely. But that's not as much a knock on Julius Randle as it is, I think, a knock on the decision making of Minnesota. Randle's a good player, and honestly, he's got the best numbers of anybody on this list. I don't know if I would take him like distinctly, definitely over a guy like PJ Washington or Aaron Gordon when it comes to a playoff series, but I think overall he's got to go a tier higher than them because of the scoring ability. Got to put him in that stud tier, in my opinion. Keegan Murray, I do not know what happened to him as a shooter. I don't get it. He came out of college as an elite level sharpshooter, and his rookie year shot over 41% from three on over 6 attempts a game. The last couple of years, last year was 36, not great, but not awful. This year he's 31.5% from three. I don't know what's happened to him as a shooter. He's just not there anymore. His 2-point percentage is down from last year as well. Just overall scoring the least points he's ever scored in his career. Now, he is rebounding better than he's ever rebounded. He's playing the four a ton. He's been the everyday four for this team this year, which, again, seeing him step up as a rebounder has been good considering his role has shifted a bit. But as of late, he is shooting the ball better. 3 for 8, 4 of 6, 5 of 8, 3 of 8. Hopefully that type of performance will be sustained and he can start working his numbers up back into the higher 30s. For the season, though, he has struggled too much for me not to put him in the lowest tier, in all honesty. I just don't think as a shooter, his efficiency has been good enough and he hasn't provided enough offensive production to offset that. So I think he's got to go in the lowest tier for this season. Again, these guys in the lowest tier so far, they're all good players, but I just don't think they deserve to be higher than that. Kevin Durant, obvious S tier, obvious best of the best. Like, come on, it's KD. He's honestly head and shoulders over everybody else on this list. As good as some of these guys on this list are, especially guys like J-Dub and Jaren Jackson Jr., players like that. KD's at 27, 6, and 5, or 27, 6, and 4 on 52, 39, 84. Like, high level efficiency across the board. Still one of the best scorers in the league. Still one of the more efficient and ethical scorers in basketball. Just a beautiful player to watch who is so impressive that he's now in year 17 playing at this high of a level. He tore his Achilles and managed to come back and still be one of the best players in the league for several years now. I mean, it is remarkable what KD has been able to do and the longevity he's had in his career. gets overlooked at times because of the impressive longevity of a Braun or Steph or guys like that. But KD's right there. He's 36 years old and he's playing amazing basketball, putting up pretty comparable numbers to what he's done his whole career. Deserves a ton of credit. Easily tops on this list. Draymond Green is, for the most part, better this year. He hasn't gotten into off-court trouble as much, which I think is honestly a big point of progress for Draymond. Another guy who is in his older age has found a way to be a versatile player. Shot the ball really well to start the year. He was over 40% from three for a while, but he's down to 42%, 36% from three. Only averaging about 9.6 rebounds and 5.5 assists. I think defensively and in terms of his overall versatility in his role, he is still not in the lowest tier of power forward. He has fallen off a little bit overall, I think, this year in terms of its overall production, just slightly, but not by a ton. And for the last couple of years, he shot the ball pretty well after a lot of down years shooting the ball. And I think, look, the Warriors aren't great. I don't really think that's because of Draymond. He's still one of the better decision makers, the power forward in the league. He doesn't turn the ball over too much for that 5.6 assists, positive, better than 2-to-1 assist to turnover ratio. He's still one of the better defensive bigs and wings in the league. I still think he deserves the benefit of the doubt of not being in that lowest tier. Draymond's not the player he once was, but he's still a useful player. Still deserves to be a tier above the bottom at least. Jeremy Sohan, I'm sorry you are going in that bottom tier as well. Jeremy has just been, look, I don't love the fit next to Wemby because he's not a shooter. 28% from three. Now he's a good player outside of the lack of shooting. He's averaging 13 and 8. I didn't realize he was averaging 8 rebounds a game. Shout out to Jeremy Sohan for that. My cousin played at Baylor with Jeremy actually, so I do like Jeremy as a guy. He seemed like a good dude when I met him a couple times. And look, you'd like to see him shoot the three ball better. That's the biggest thing. Third year, he's 28% from three. Really doesn't feel like he's made a lot of progress in that area. And that does, I think, hurt his ability a little bit, but he has rebounded the ball well this year. I think he's played pretty confidently, pretty well. I just don't love the shot shooting ability. The shooting really limits him as a player offensively in terms of how he plays next to him being guys like that. But he's averaging 8 boards and 13 points. I think that's impressive enough. That deserves some credit for sure. Despite the better numbers than Draymond on paper, or at least as a scorer, I don't love the efficiency from three. I think there's potential. I just don't love the fit, I guess. I don't know. Maybe lowest tier is a little bit rude, but I don't know. I might change that one up. I haven't decided yet. Tamani Kamara, on a bad Portland team, he's getting a lot of minutes, and he's not playing bad. He's one of their best defensive players. 43%, 35 almost percent from three, 9.5 points, 5.5 rebounds, and 2 assists. But come on, y'all. As a whole, he's just not. I'm sorry. 9.5 points on not elite efficiency isn't really enough when you're not doing a ton as a rebounder scorer. He's a fine defender, but still. Not a great playmaker. I just don't think you can put him above the lowest tier at this point in his career. Maybe in a couple of years he will be above that point because Tamani Kamara, I think he's one of the more underrated young guys in basketball. Nobody ever talks about him. He's having another good year, so I don't have a problem with him at all. But I just don't think he's any higher than the lowest tier. John Collins, he's averaging 18 and 8. I get that he's on one of the worst teams in the league in Utah. But you can't not give him a little credit for averaging 18 points, 8 rebounds, 2.5 assists, and shooting almost 44% from three this year. You can criticize the team all you want. You can't criticize these numbers and this level of efficiency. Easily a career high shooting the three ball. Really, he had a couple of really good shooting years several years ago in Atlanta, and since then he kind of fell off over the past few years in Atlanta. Last year in Utah, he was fine, but not great. This year, he's been really, really good, shooting the ball more, scoring the ball more, and at a more efficient clip overall, especially from the three-point line. I think he's having a very, very solid season. He's a good rebounder. He's underrated as a player in general, and I think that is just because he is in Utah. But he's a guy I think could contribute to a winning team. I don't have a problem with him in that meta tier. And then Zion, look, if Zion could stay healthy, there's a serious argument to be made that he would be in that best of the best tier. Absolutely. But right now, he hasn't, and he doesn't deserve that, honestly. I know he doesn't shoot the three ball well, but everything else, he does great. 22 points. 7.5 rebounds, 5 assists, and he's only played in 8 games. So keep that in mind. Hasn't had a ton of opportunity to really impact the game all that much this season. Now, the problem with Zion is he can't stay healthy, can't seem to stay out of trouble, was just late for a team flight and got suspended for a game. He's got the off the court stuff that happened with Mariah Mills last year. There's just a lot of things about Zion Williamson that are distractions from basketball, whether it be weight or other off the court concerns. And those have really, I think, stagnated Zion's career the last few years between injuries and all of these other things. So he hasn't been able to quite meet the insanely high hype that was expected from him, but he's still only 24 years old, still has all the physical talent in the world. And if he can get things worked out, would not be surprised to see Zion jump up into that top tier at the power forward position here relatively soon, maybe even next year. I would not be surprised by it. With that being said, I think that's going to do for the list. I am going to leave Draymond over Sochan. I just think Draymond is more important to his team's success than Jeremy is, and Jeremy's inability to shoot the 3-ball hurts him. I know the stats would say he's not the lowest tier player, but I think I'm going to give him that last lowest tier spot. So yeah, with that being said, I hope y'all did enjoy the video. Let me know what y'all think of my tier list in the comment section down below. If you did enjoy, make sure you hit that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe, and I'll be back with more NBA content very, very soon. I appreciate y'all. Thanks.